Good afternoon. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I thank the candidates and our panelists for participating. I would also like to thank, welcome to a candidate forum featuring candidates for Elk Grove District 4 City Council. I'm Heather Skinkle, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the moderator for today's forum. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. The forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento Board of Supervisors chambers and by a live cable television audience at home. It is also being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. And you can see the rebroadcast of this forum every Sunday until Election Day. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate political candidates or parties. Although our nonpartisanship policy does not permit endorsement of political candidates, we do, after careful study, take positions on political issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our panel. The questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. In the interest of time and decorum, I ask our audience to hold all applause until the end of our forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates who are running for Elk Grove District 4 City Council. Here we have Daniel Jimenez.
Hello.
Nair Sarfaraz.
Thank you.
Nancy Chirades. And Steve Lee.
Hello.
Sitting on our panel of questioners are Cameron MacDonald from the Elk Grove Citizen and Dan Gowdy from elkgrovenews.net. And I believe the first question will be asked by Mr. MacDonald.
I believe we start off introductions first.
Excuse me, apologize. If Daniel Jimenez would like to make the first opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Jimenez, and I'm running for Elk Grove City Council, District 4. First of all, thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for having me here today. I appreciate it very much, and thank you to my candidates for being here as well. As a business owner in the city of Elk Grove, I am a stakeholder in the community. I am a job creator. I'm a father, and I'm a husband. My kids go to school there. I live and work there as well, of course, and we have a lot of work to do in terms of our economic development. That's really where we're going with this. In a previous background, I was actually a construction manager. My background is in infrastructure development. It's in infrastructure planning. Everything from $5,000 to $5 million, from roads to buildings to technical work. My plan is to use that knowledge as a contractor, my knowledge of budgets, large scale, small scale, and where the rubber actually meets the road with my experience. And now my experience as a small business owner, which I have no debt in my business. I do everything on cash. I understand what it takes to be a real stakeholder in this community, to be a real leader, not only with my family, my business, my background, but with the youth as well. My plan is to continue to educate and mentor, as I have for the last 1.5 years as well, with a couple of young men that work with me in my business. So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you for inviting me, League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. My name is Nair Sarfaraz, and let me tell you a little bit about me, about myself. I work for City of West Sacramento in City Manager's office, where I look for problems, I offer solutions to the problems, and I try to fix the problems, and that's my job there. And this is exactly what I will do for the District 4 if I get elected. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Chidas. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters in Sacramento Cable also for providing this forum for us to have a good discussion about the issues that will affect all of our lives in the next few years in Elk Grove. I'm running for Elk Grove City Council so that I can bring some focus to our job creation efforts in the city. And I want to make sure that every decision that the City Council makes, that they keep first and foremost preserving or improving our quality of life and protecting our public safety. And my background is I'm married, I have one young son, and I'm very close to my family. And that's why I'm running, because Elk Grove is where I live, it's where I'm raising my family, and I have a long-term interest in making sure that it remains a wonderful place to live. I am the chair of the Planning Commission. I've been serving the city for several years, for almost 7 years now. And for me, the only reason to run is to continue my public service.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Lee. I've lived in Elk Grove for 16 years. 14 years ago, I had the privilege of voting for incorporation. I serve on the Elk Grove Unified School District, and I am a proud father of 2 young boys and a proud husband. The reason why I'm running for City Council is I really want to put the focus on creating jobs. Down in Elk Grove, we do a very good job of building houses, but we need improvement on building jobs. Living in Elk Grove, being a stakeholder, serving as an elected in Elk Grove, I have a stake in Elk Grove. I feel compelled to step up and make a difference. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. We can now move to our question portion. Mr. McDonald, would you address your first question to Mr. Jimenez, please?
Yes, thank you. Many candidates in this race have expressed interest in generating more jobs in Elk Grove. 10 years ago, the city staff reported that the top employers in Elk Grove were the Elk Grove School District, Kaiser Permanente, and Apple. They're still the biggest employers in Elk Grove today. What type of jobs or businesses or industries are you interested in drawing to Elk Grove?
Well, excuse me. First of all, we need to start with our youth. We need to give them a great opportunity to be able to flourish in Elk Grove and build those types of hardworking skills to bring in the future generation. Next, we need to give them that opportunity. What really delivers jobs? Production. It's great to have a technical company like Apple in Elk Grove and producing work, but not everybody's going to go to college and get degrees in that type of work. So we need to think about production. What can we do here in Elk Grove to be able to make not only a consumer economy thrive, but we need to make sure that we're making it thrive with larger companies. How do we approach larger companies and give them the opportunity to come here? Production companies, everybody from Hershey's to water companies. What are they looking for? They're looking for a stable community that thrives not only through their schools, but also thrives through resources. A business-friendly community, business-friendly city council. And also, it's tough to do business in the state of California because of our current regulations. So, thank you.
Mr.
Thank you, Per. So what I'm interested to bring is a combination of different jobs, such as information technology, which is my major, healthcare, which is also my major, and most important, food hub, make a food hub. For example, City of West Sacramento, where I work, has attracted 4 international companies, 3 from Japan and 1 from Germany, which is a good success, and I guess because of they are taking advantage of their port. So my approach would be a combination of different areas of job growth. For example, as I already mentioned, information technology, healthcare, which is the next big field to get jobs, and of course, food products. That's pretty much it.
Great question. So economic development absolutely starts with good land planning, and but there's a bundle of factors to consider there, and it's important that these plans be very realistic. I believe the current largest employer in our city, is it's actually healthcare based. So one of the hospital chains, which I won't name, but healthcare has room to grow. And the great thing about these jobs is that they're everything from an 18-month certificate program to a 4-year degree to beyond. So healthcare, we still have room to grow there. Higher education is another sector that's growing. In Elk Grove, we have a pharmacy college. We are, which is moving ground on a medical school now, and may bring a 4-year university to Elk Grove, where we already have a community college extension center. And then clean technology. We are well positioned in our region to be a place where clean technology and agricultural technology flourish.
That's part of the problem. For the last 10 years, it really hasn't been any new ideas on the city council. Leaders in our city have really just been looking to the industries that have actually always been there. In fact, Apple came to the Elk Grove region before the city incorporated. The Unified School District was there before the city incorporated. I think what needs to happen in the city of Elk Grove is there needs to be serious thought on green industries, medical industries, because these are the cutting edge. These are the two industries in which we are in a perfect position to work at trying to bring into the city of Elk Grove. And of course, number 3, we live in close proximity to the capital. Elk Grove should be a hub for government entities to be down in that direction. And the way we're going to do it is attract them by convincing them that Elk Grove is a safe city, and Elk Grove has a dynamite school district.
Thank you to everyone who answered. Next question goes to, will be asked by Mr. Gourdy, and it will be directed to Mr. Surfaraz.
Thank you. We're going to stay on jobs and the economy a little bit. There's much talk about the jobs of homes imbalance in Elk Grove and the need to remedy it. While Elk Grove has while Elk Grove has relatively few jobs that on their own can support a family, it does have many lower-end retail and minimum wage jobs. Would you be in favor of raising the city minimum wage above the state minimum? And can you explain your reasoning, please?
No, I will not favor to raise minimum wage above the state minimum wage level. And the reason is because the minimum wage is just a stepping stone for high school students to get into the market. And they need to upgrade their skills. And we need to create opportunities for new students or people who immigrant to this area who don't have English as a first language or who don't have necessary skills in math or English or science. We need to create those opportunities for them and give them a platform to make themselves available and go to school or get some training and then go out and look for jobs. So I would not support that. Thanks.
Ms. Chidas?
Great, thank you. The question actually raises a very important issue, which is what types of jobs. So it's very important to me when we have this conversation about job creation that we are really talking about quality jobs, the kinds of jobs that'll let you live and work in our city. So with that said, I do think that wages need to rise, but I don't think doing it city by city is the best way to do it. And the reason is because we in Elk Grove are competing with the other cities in the Sacramento area, and we need to remain competitive. If we all were under the same condition, that would be preferable. It wouldn't put us at a disadvantage. So as a city, no, I would not support that.
I don't think that would be a solution. The solution really is to look at the different industries and track jobs that are actually high paying. Part of the problem is the consistent building of strip malls in Elk Grove. It's wonderful that we have retail. It's wonderful that we have strip malls. But there's got to be a balance. And in order to really address this problem, we have to go to the root of it and try to figure out how we can brand our city, make our city exceptional, and make these industries come to Elk Grove. We got to look seriously at the medical industry, the green industry, the government service industry. These are industries in which we, as a city, are in a perfect position to attract. And I can certainly guarantee you that these cities these jobs will pay more than the minimum wage. I truly believe that the minimum wage really is a starting point for many young people. But the problem there is that since there's only retail jobs down in Elk Grove, or the most of it that is, these students that would be working there, they can't find jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Jimenez?
I definitely do not support raising the minimum wage. Again, as a business owner, as a job creator, I understand that paying someone $10 an hour is really paying someone $13 and $14 an hour. It's costing an extra $3 to $4 per hour to actually employ someone. A lot of people don't realize that. And what do we do from there? We actually pass that cost on to the consumer. Not only that, people don't realize that the minimum wage going up will actually raise the cost of my overall overhead, and it's true. My costs have gone up between 18 to 25%, depending on what it is I'm purchasing to sell to the consumer. Minimum wage jobs should be a starting place. It should be an opportunity to give you a goal to work towards something larger. You know, I was raised with the mentality of even if you're out there washing cars and shoveling dirt, you do it the best you can, and you move up from there. Someday you manage it, someday you own the business. Again, it goes back to the quality of jobs then that we're bringing into Elk Grove to actually support the consumer economy that is there. We need to find production. We need to find quality work. We need to find jobs that will support that type of industry every day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question will be asked by Mr. McDonald, and we'll start with Ms. Chaidez.
During the last candidate forum, all of you addressed the Highway 99 interchange that's being considered for Whitelock Parkway. There was concern that the interchange could negatively impact Elk Grove Regional Park and the Strauss Festival that's held there. How should the city address those concerns?
Well, the design hasn't been finalized for that interchange yet, so we really don't have the options in front of us. But what is important, and what I said during the last time we discussed this, is that priority number one is to have a functional interchange that relieves the traffic pressure off of the closest interchange, which is Elk Grove Boulevard and 99. But close to that, if not equally important, is the protection of the heritage that is in that park. So Elk Grove Regional Park actually predates the town and the city of Elk Grove. It is absolutely the most important part of our history. So whatever the designs are, I think they need to be constructed with the preservation of that park in mind.
The way I would approach that is real simple. Look, we know the exchange is coming, but what is important here is to actually get feedback from the community. Yes, Elk Grove Regional is a significant component in our city. Yes, the residents there want this so that they can actually reduce the congestion. But how will it impact? I'd be the first to say that as a council member, and even currently as a board member, I would never claim that I have the solution to everything. But what I will do, and what I can promise, is I will open my ears and listen to every resident who have concerns, who have an opinion and suggestion as to what we can do. And that's how I would approach it.
Preserving our heritage is important, without a doubt. My wife's family actually dates back fairly back into Elk Grove with Ella Bond and Bond Road. So I can appreciate what it is to be a part of Elk Grove and be a part of that park. We've had family functions there, and we've had baptisms there. I mean, it is what it is. We go there on Saturdays, we go there on Sundays. I take my boys there, we feed ducks. Now, unlike my other council people running here, candidates, I actually have background in planning these types of projects. I will take a very active approach into going out and researching myself and looking at the land, the scape of the land, and deciding, having a very active position in deciding how we're going to approach it and how we're not going to encroach onto Elk Grove Park. There is land on the other side of 99. That's there. It's bare. It's vacant. Who says we can't make a proposal to take that up? Who says we can't go out there and maybe even take out part of a lane? The traffic starts a little further down the line from Elk Grove Boulevard. So we have an opportunity to make good changes to make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So United States actually is known for protecting its park. It goes back to Teddy Roosevelt, who first started approval of the national parks. I believe it's before that. So I will definitely try to preserve this iconic park in Elk Grove. I will look other ways to make sure that this park is not disturbed during the construction process. And so far, I haven't seen the plan. Well, I think there may be other way we can protect it, so preserve it and make sure that the park is not encroached. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. The next question goes to Mr. Gawardi, and we'll start with Mr. Lee.
Thank you. The City of Elk Grove has several large proposed public projects, including a $100 million soccer stadium and a $17 million aquatic center. Often projects like these have project labor agreements attached to them. If these proposals have project labor agreements attached to them, how would you justify the additional cost to Elk Grove taxpayers?
My position on PLAs is real simple. They are controversial. And I think what's important here is that they are controversial. We want inclusion in the process. We want inclusion, but at the same time maintain a level in which we make sure that employees are compensated, to make sure that employees can actually take care of their families, to make sure that in the event that these employees are injured, they are cared for. I think these values, these safety issues, are across the board. And when you look at that, it's not about PLAs. It's not about creating something that is divisive. What it is, it's, as an elected, I have to make sure that everyone is on board. Everyone is agreeable to language, to programs that would benefit the employee and the employer as a whole. That's how we're going to move forward with these big projects. That's how we would be able to finish them.
I have years of experience with working directly with many journeyman trade members. And I'll tell you flat out, they're some of the most amazing people to work with, not only from a hardworking perspective, but also from a knowledgeable perspective. I respect them very much, and you just can't say any more than that. When approaching projects that are going to be affected by us in Elk Grove, we want to make sure that we're hiring local. My first thing would be to look for local contractors that we could employ and take our money that we're actually paying in tax dollars and reinvesting it into the community. It's about investment in our community for the long term and not for the short. Solid investments and spending wisely. Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Certainly. The City of Elk Grove has several large proposed public projects, including a $100 million soccer stadium and a $17 million aquatic center. Often projects like these have project labor agreements attached to them. If these proposals have project labor agreements attached to them, how would you justify the additional cost to Elk Grove taxpayers?
Well, first of all, if it involves the public tax dollars, I would like to involve all the stakeholders, such as, of course, the public, and make sure that they're okay with the extra burden on in form of tax to the public. So I would like to involve them first in the community, and I'll go from there.
I would welcome project-specific PLAs, and the reason for that is because in exchange for possibly greater expense, we get the best trained workers, we get a strong safety record, and more importantly, it goes back to a point that I made earlier. It's not just about ticking off a ratio saying, look, there are more jobs this year and, therefore reelect me. It's about quality. It's about saying, look, these are good paying jobs. These are jobs that actually allow people to live and work in Elk Grove. I don't want to be short-sighted in our economic development or job creation strategies. For me, it's important to make sure that these are good-paying, high-quality jobs. So that's one of the reasons I would welcome that.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Mr. McDonald, and we will start with Mr. Jimenez.
Okay. Let's talk about an old headache in your council district. Let's talk about Franklin High Road on a school day during early morning and late afternoon. The traffic congestion has frustrated neighbors for many years. Franklin High Road and its nearby streets are used by a few thousand students enrolled at Franklin High School and Toby Johnson Middle School. Earlier this year, the city installed a fence to block off Hewitt Way in order to cut traffic. What is your view of the city's treatment of the traffic situation?
It goes back to infrastructure. What are we doing and what have we done? Where did we fail in the past at planning the infrastructure of this city to make sure that we're moving quickly and moving safely? I know we've looked at the Grant Line expansion, which flows through to Cameron in the back road of District 4. And I'll tell you right now, that's a great way at helping to improve traffic in that area, because a lot of people are either going one way or the other when they go into the freeway, getting out and going to school or going to work. And so that's how I would approach it, is to make sure that we're continuing to work on infrastructure, expanding our roads, and making it easier to move around in Elk Grove.
I think that it's a planning issue on the Elk Grove City part, but I would like to see more improvement in the planning department, involve the neighbors and make sure that they understand the problem, and then answer the questions from there. Thanks.
This is a very interesting issue for both the city and the school district, I think. So for anything that is built in the city of Elk Grove, the applicant, even if it is the school district, tells the city this is the amount of traffic we expect to have. And if that number changes or if there are any negative consequences, whoever builds there is responsible for fixing it. But in this case, where it's the city and the school district, the city can't tell another local government what to do. So unfortunately, the city has had to try to deal with the effects of the school district not adequately addressing the traffic that is being generated by Toby Johnson Middle School and Franklin High School. I do appreciate that the city council staggered schedules, start and stop times. I think that helped a little bit, but again, this is the middle school my son attended and the high school he attends, so unfortunately we've seen packed crowds at council chambers, and the problem still isn't addressed. So I do hope to be a part of the solution by working as a council member with the school district in the future.
Thank you.
This is actually a perfect example of just the lack of inclusion of the stakeholders in planning. When I got on the school board, I was approached by the residents in this community, and they brought this problem to me. What I have found is that in the last 6 years, these residents, some 160 residents, or households that is, has been struggling with this problem, and no one has paid any attention to them. What I did was I dragged the city into this, and I dragged the school board into this, and I forced everyone to work together. I told my administration that come up with a solution, because the ones who lose out in this particular issue is really the residents. The solution to it was real simple. Within a period of 3 months, we solved it by reducing 30%. With the help of the city, we're able to address the problem so that these residents are now happy. Ask the residents today. There is a night and day difference, and I'm quite proud of that.
Thank you. Our last question will be asked by Mr. Gowerty, and we'll start with Mr. Surfaris.
Thank you. Elk Grove's Public Works Director advised the City Council recently that the city roads are at risk of an almost exponential rate of deterioration if maintenance funding is not addressed. What are your views on how maintenance should be funded and administered?
Good question. I think that the maintenance funds should be funded through infrastructure finance districts account. So this is a program from the state government which allows you to put tax dollars, certain amount of money into your IFD accounts, and then you can fund your infrastructure projects through that account. So I will definitely push advice for that.
Thank you. Our road maintenance is very important in Elk Grove, and yes, I don't think we are keeping up with the quality of service that our residents deserve and that we need to be an attractive place for business. So that's very important. I would first pursue state and federal funding before we pursue any others, because really all of the other sources might have some disadvantages in terms of regional competitiveness. But there actually was a bill signed into law recently that brings back these infrastructure financing districts, and I think that the city should absolutely pursue that as an avenue.
I think that, number one, we should be able to take care of our own streets. The bottom line here is, as an elected, we have an obligation to make sure that the roads are fixed, the trash is picked up on time, the street lights are fixed. These are real simple things that, as an elected, I understand that my obligation, my duty, is to serve the constituents. What I would do in this particular case is to make sure the money is actually set aside to maintain these roads. To supplement it, certainly, we can look at the state and the federal government to see what grants are available to enhance it. But the bottom line here is the taxpayer living in the city of Elk Grove, I truly believe that we should not take chances by applying for grants. We should set money aside on a regular basis, consistently, to make sure that we provide for the basic things for every resident in Elk Grove.
Besides going after state and federal monies, we need to be looking at how we're going to be more self-sufficient as a city. Financial stability is what we're looking for long term. How do we do that? Well, first of all, as a business owner, I look at my budget. I look at where my expenses are. As a city councilman, that's what I would do as well. We want to look at our city expenses. Advocate for a labor to production audit. I want to know how much is being spent, when it's being spent, and where it's being spent. We need to make sure we're taking time to fund major road improvements that are a big part of our safety as a city, are things that we need. And I own a cake shop, so driving a cake is pretty dangerous in a bumpy road. Let's be clear about that. It's really about being self-sufficient and providing not only for road improvements, but for other services that the city provides as well. We want to make sure we're doing that again with self-sufficiency. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to closing statements. We'll start with Ms. Chides.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm running for Elk Grove City Council, again, to bring focus to our economic development strategy, looking beyond a mathematical ratio of jobs to housing, looking at long-term sustainability and quality of life. I've made my living going into state and local agencies and helping them become more effective, more efficient, more transparent and accountable. That's the experience I want to bring to the Elk Grove City Council. I want to help drive home the point that with every decision the council makes, they're either earning the public trust or they're losing it. As a planning commissioner, I've already identified the mistakes of the past. I've already become involved in trying to restore balance and address those missed opportunities. So I really want to bring this experience to the council to make sure that we address quality of life and public safety with every decision that we make. I'm running because I care about public service and I care about my community. What does it say? What does it matter what anybody says to us if they've already broken their promises to us in the past?
Thank you.
Just let me finish the sentence. I have a record, and I think it reflects my commitment to public service. Apologies.
Okay.
Well, first I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank each and every one of you who have joined us to gather more information so you can make a sound decision. I want to thank the League of Women Voters. Look, I serve as an elected. I have experience with a large budget. The school district is $600 million a year. This is what I stand to offer. I certainly cannot claim the credit of Elk Grove developing as a bedroom community. What I offer is to shift gear and to develop Elk Grove and create jobs. This 30,000 job, 160,000 resident imbalance didn't happen overnight. This half a job per household didn't happen overnight. When I voted for incorporation, I wanted local control. I wanted to create jobs. It hasn't happened yet. That's why I'm running. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
As a small business owner with experience in creating jobs, not only for myself, but for my employees, creating opportunities for young men like the two disadvantaged teenagers that work with me, to give them an opportunity to learn how to grow as an individual, to learn about business, to teach them how to budget. I want to bring my experience as a father, as a human being to this. I'm going to bring real experience in where the rubber meets the road, in development and infrastructure. I know what it is to actually go out in the field, know what our budget is, know what our plans look like, to take the bureaucratic legislation, to take the bureaucratic process and make it work in a very real way. What more can you ask for? As someone who actually understands it from a real world experience, that's what I bring to the table. My name is Daniel Jimenez, and I have lived my life not just in survival mode. I've thrived in it. Thank you, everyone.
I want to make, my only interest is to make this place to live, work, and to retire. I want to bring job stability with economic prosperity, with strong business retention program, and the public safety. I like to bring a structured approach rather than an unstructured approach. And this is what I will do. I'll identify the problem, come up with a solution, and fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I thank the candidates and our panelists for participating. I would also like to thank all the volunteers who've made this forum possible. This forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that a democratic government depends on the informed and active participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights you've gained from this forum will aid you in making your decision. This forum will be rebroadcast every Sunday on Metro Cable Channel 14 until Election Day. A repeat playback schedule is advertised on Metro Cable 14's bulletin board every day from 6 a.m. through 8 a.m. and can also be found at the Metro Cable website at sacmetrocable.tv. For voter information, please visit our website at lwvsacramento.org or the Smart Voter website at smartvoter.org. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. Please vote on November 4th and help make our democracy work. Thank you.